Hello and welcome to today's episode. The episode deals with the concept of communication. We will discuss the importance and process of communication. In addition to it, the script also explains the various channels and communication networks. This episode will also throw some light on the barriers to communication and guidelines for effective communication. The subject expert is Dr. Arshia Hussain, PhD in Human Resource Management and Teaching in the Department of Commerce and Business Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi, and I am Sakshi Mandwal. Let us start with the concept of communication. Concept of communication. Communication is one of the most important elements in an organization. Communication is required to exchange views, opinions, as well as ideas between two or more persons. Whenever two or more persons come together for the purpose of communicating with each other, it is essential that they must have common ground of understanding. Communication is an indispensable part for the survival of any business organization. Communication is necessary for cordial human relationships. Communication may be defined as a process of exchange of ideas, views, facts, opinions, or emotions to create mutual understanding. The term communication not only includes the spoken or written words, but it is more than that. It also includes gestures, attitudes, feelings, or actions. Communication has been defined by various scholars. James L. Gibson and others define communication as the transmission of information and understanding through the use of common symbols. Common symbols may be verbal or non-verbal. Kuntz and O'Donnell define it as communication is an intercourse by words, letters, symbols or messages and is a way that one organization member shares meaning and understanding with another. According to Hudson, communication in its simplest form is conveying of information from one person to another. According to Allen, communication is the sum of all things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. It is a bridge of meaning. It involves systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. Thus, we can say that communication is nothing but the process of passing of information, views, opinions, etc. from one person to another, which helps in understanding each other. Features of communication. The main features of communication are: communication is a continuous process. It is pervasive in nature. This means that it is required in all fields. Communication involves two or more persons, that is sender and receiver or receivers. Communication is a two-way process. Communication will not be completed unless and until receiver also gives the feedback to the sender. Communication is not only the transfer of ideas or views to other persons but also involves correct interpretation as well as understanding of the views. The main purpose of communication is to make the other person understandable. Purpose of communication. The main purpose of communication is to create mutual understanding between two or more persons. Communication is necessary to make healthy human relationships. According to Glower, the main objective of communication are to keep employees informed of company's progress, to provide orders and instructions to the employees, to develop will to work among employees, to obtain feedback from the employees, to develop interest of the management in the employees, to prevent or reduce labor turnover, to create interest among the employees with respect to their jobs. Process of communication. Various elements in the process of communication are as follows. Sender. The first and foremost element in the process of communication is the sender. Sender is the person who initiates the process of communication. He has certain ideas, views, information, etc. which he wants to send to the other person. Message. The next element in the process of communication is the message. Message is the information, views, ideas, etc. which sender wants to share with the other person. Encoding. The term encoding refers to the words, symbols, gestures, etc. through which sender organizes his ideas, views, etc. and communicates to the receiver. In simple words, encoding is the language which is used by the sender to transmit the message. Channel. Next important element is the channel or medium through which message will be transmitted from the sender to the receiver. There are different channels or media through which message can be transmitted. Most commonly used channels are telephone, letter, face-to-face conversation, etc. Receiver. Receiver is the person who receives the message or a person for whom the message is to be delivered. The communication process will not be completed unless and until the message is received by the receiver. Decoding. The term decoding refers to the words into which message is translated by the receiver. Receiver interprets the message into his own words to derive its meaning. Feedback. Feedback is the response by the receiver. Importance or significance of communication. Communication is one of the essential elements for the success of an organization. The administration of an organization is not possible without communication. In the words of Chester Bernard, the first executive function is to develop and maintain a system of communication. Manager gets things done through others, thus he spends most of the time in communicating, guiding, instructing and so forth. A publication of the American Management Institution aptly observes, as a manager, your prime responsibility is to get things done through people. However sound your ideas or well-reasoned your decisions, they become effective only as they are transmitted to others and achieve the desired action or reaction. Communication, therefore, is your most vital management tool. Whatever management does, they do it by communicating with others. In the words of Kuntz and O'Donnell, it is no exaggeration to say that communication is the means by which organization activity is unified. It is the means by which behavior is modified, change is effected, and goals are achieved. Communication is needed everywhere and in all types of organization. Communication promotes cooperation and helps in building up high morale in the organization. It also helps in motivating the employees. Effective communication helps the workers or employees to express their problems and grievances to the management, thus strengthen their relationships. Another important rule of communication exists when employees are to be given training, because training program not only depends on the contents of the training but also on how effective it has been delivered to the training. Apart from this, there are other fields also where communication plays significant role, like better planning, organizing, staffing, decision making, coordination, controlling, etc. requires effective communication. In the words of C.B. Gupta, the importance of communication has been increased due to the growing size of organizations. Technological advancement, focus on human relations, growth of trade unions, stress on public relations and social responsibilities of business. Communication networks. Communication network is the system through which message is transmitted in one direction or in several directions. It mainly depends on the number of persons involved in the process of communication as well as the type of media or channel of communication being selected. In the words of Singh and Chawra, network determines the speed, smoothness and accuracy with which the messages flow throughout the organization. Circle network. In this type of communication network, the information or messages are transferred from one person to another in the form of a circle. This means that each person can communicate with two other persons who are located on left and right of his sides. Such network gives greater satisfaction to the person, but at the same time it is time consuming because it is slow in nature. Chain network. Under this type of communication, network messages are shared by one person to another in the form of vertical line along the scalar chain of command. Scalar chain of command means that all the subordinates receive the instructions and orders from one superior. Under this system, messages can flow from top to bottom or from bottom to top in a vertical line. Wheel network. In the wheel network, one person sits in the center of the network and receives and disseminates all information. Persons, generally manager, sits in the center and acts as a hub of wheel. All the information passes through manager, and subordinates can communicate with and through him. There is no direct contact between employees or subordinates of an organization. In simple words, there is one central authority and all the subordinates have to report to him. Free flow network. As the name suggests, under this system there is no restriction in the flow of information. Everyone is free to communicate with everyone and anyone in the process of communication in an organization. This means that information can flow from any direction. Thus, it is known as all-channel network. This network is informal and unstructured in nature. Channels of communication. Channels of communication are one of the important elements of communication process. It is the way through which messages are shared or transmitted from one person, that is sender, to another, that is receiver. Channels of communication are broadly classified into two categories, that is formal communication and informal communication. Formal communication. Formal communication flows officially from top to bottom and from bottom to top. It is a systematic communication which is deliberately planned in the organization. This type of communication is based on formal relationships between the employees of the organization. It is well-structured, stable and rigid communication. There are three types of formal communication, that is downward communication, upward communication and horizontal communication. Downward communication. Downward communication is a vertical type of formal communication under which information flows from top to bottom in the organization. This type of communication is generally used when superior wants to issue orders, instructions, policies, memos, circulars, rules, budget, etc. to their subordinates. In addition to this, it is a means through which superior motivates and influences the behavior of their subordinates. Upward communication. Upward communication is also a vertical type of formal communication under which information flows from the bottom to the top in the organization. Upward communication is as important as downward communication because it provides feedback on the extent of effectiveness of downward communication. Upward communication is used when employees want to share their complaints, grievances, suggestions, proposals, etc. with their superiors. Horizontal communication. Horizontal communication is also a formal type of communication under which information flows horizontally from one person to another who is at the same position and status. This type of communication takes place among people working at the same level through letters, memos, meetings, conferences, etc. Informal communication. Informal communication is that communication which takes place informally amongst the employees. It is an unofficial, unplanned and spontaneous channel of communication which takes place among the employees of an organization. This type of channels of communication takes place because of interpersonal contacts between the employees. It is technically known as grapevine because it is unstructured in nature and information flows from all the directions. It generally operates like a cluster chain as every person tells in turn many other persons. Informal channels of communication operate at a high speed as it functions through word of mouth. Methods of communication. There are three methods of communication. They are discussed as follows. Oral communication. Oral communication takes place through word of mouth. It means exchange of ideas, views, opinions, etc. among or between the people by face-to-face contact or through mechanical devices like telephonic conversation, intercom system, etc. However, face-to-face contact is considered as the most effective way of transmitting the message because it avoids misunderstanding between the persons and can resolve the problem on the spot. There are various advantages of oral communication like it is economical, flexible and helps in giving quick response. Apart from this, the speed of oral communication is faster than the written communication, but at the same time it also suffers from certain limitations like oral communication does not provide permanent record. It is a time-consuming process. It is not desirable in case of long distances. Written communication. Written communication is that communication which under information is transmitted through written words in the form of letters, circulars, memos, reports and so on. In other words, written communication refers to those decisions, policy statements, rules, procedures, orders and instructions etc. which are expressed on paper. There are various advantages of written communication over oral communication. For instance, it provides permanent records for future reference. If the message is lengthy, then written communication is preferable. It is more clear, specific and economical. Some of the disadvantages of written communication is that it is time-consuming and inflexible. Moreover, it lacks personal touch and receiver may not understand the feelings, attitudes and emotions of the sender. Gestural communication. Information passes from the sender to the receiver through body language or gestures are known as gestural communication. In case of oral communication, gestures of the parties are very important. It is used to convey the feelings, emotions and attitudes. Barriers to communication. In every organization, whether big or small, barriers to effective communication exist to a greater or lesser extent. Barriers are the obstacles or hindrances which causes distortions, breakdowns and delay in the communication process. Following are some of the common barriers which exist in the organization and make the communication process ineffective. Organizational barrier. This is the most common barrier of organization which exists due to long and complex layers of hierarchy. Nowadays, organization involves too many levels which cause long communication lines. This long communication lines may be the cause of delaying the message as well as can also get distorted by the message. Sometimes long communication lines may also lead to filtering. When information has to be passed through several persons, it causes unnecessary filtering of message. Status barrier. Another problem in an effective communication exists when the persons of higher status do not like to talk to the persons at the lower status. At the same time, subordinates at lower status also do not feel free to talk to their superiors. They share only information which their superiors would like to hear. Information overload. Too many informations at the same time may lead to confusion. Receivers may ignore or misinterpret some of the messages. Channel distortion. Various disturbances due to noise, unhealthy environment, problem in telephone connections, telex machines, etc. may distort the message. Inattention. Another obstacle in the way of effective communication occurs when the receiver himself or herself does not pay attention to the sender because of boring lecture or uninteresting information. Semantic barrier. There may be the circumstances when the same words have the different meaning to different persons. In such cases, the correct purpose or meaning of communication will not be delivered. Perceptual barrier. Every person has different perceptions. They would like to hear, read or see which is of their interest and leave the rest of the message. This may create the communication process ineffective. Premature evaluation. There are circumstances when the receivers are in such a hurry that he evaluates the message before listening to it carefully and completely. Miscellaneous barriers. Apart from above barriers, there may also be other barriers like lack of ability to communicate, irrelevant and unclear message, lack of trust, etc. Overcoming barriers to communication. There are various ways through which above obstacles can be removed. Some of the important ways are discussed below. Clarity of message. First and foremost step of an effective communication is that message must be clearly understood both by the sender and the receiver. Sender can send the message properly and make the message understandable to the receiver only when he himself is clear about the contents of the message. Language used must be as simple as possible. No ambiguity should creep into it. Completeness. Message must be complete in all respects. Incomplete message creates confusion and misunderstanding. Communication skills. Every person, especially a person who is sending the message, should have communication skills. Organization structure. Structure of an organization should be flexible and should have shorter channels of communication. This definitely helps in achieving smooth and effective flow of communication. Timeliness. The message should be delivered to the right person and at the right time. Proper channel should be used to deliver the message. Attention. It is very necessary that the receiver should listen to the message carefully. It is the responsibility of the communicator to make the contents of the message interesting. In simple words, the communicator should try to secure the attention of every person or communicate by making the message attractive and interesting. Free from semantic barriers. In order to remove semantic barriers, it is very essential that the receiver should understand the message in the same manner with the same meaning in which it has been delivered by the sender. Miscellaneous guidelines. Apart from the above steps, there are other steps also which help in making the communication process effective. For instance, no status barrier should be there between the superior and subordinates. Every person should be free to talk to each other. Receivers should not evaluate the message before getting it completely. Disturbances due to telephonic lines, telex machines and other noises should be completely removed before delivering the message. Closing. That is all that we had for you today. Hope you have understood the concept of communication. We will see you again next time with another topic. Till then, take care and goodbye.
Thank you.